to this session. The last session that we looked at the teacher-centered approaches to teaching. Now this morning, we're going to look at the learner-centered approaches to teaching. And when you go to your learning units on Moodle, you will see there's a link to approaches to teaching EMS, the learner-centered approach. I would want you to work through that. Don't only use what we are doing here in this session. This just covers the basics. So this learner-centered approach places the learner at the center of the teaching and learner experience. So the focus is not so much on the teacher, how the teacher is teaching, but on the learner, how the learner goes about learning the content. Learners must take control of their own learning with the support of the teacher. So the teacher plays a facilitating or mentoring role in this approach. The small group work method is the first method that we look at. And you will see that all of these methods within the approach has got to do with groups, where the learners work in groups. In other words, learners are learning a social skill, how to work with their peers, because that is how the world of work works. So the small group work method involves up to 4 learners in a small group task where active participation is required for success. So each group member is given a specific task to complete. Then each group member gives input and discusses ideas and collectively agrees on each point before they accept it as a group. So within a group of 4 members, each one has got a specific task. For example, if they discuss unemployment, the one will look at the unemployment rates. The other one will look at the characteristics of unemployment. The other one will look at the causes of employment. So they first prepare to the group how they view that specific topics. And then they discuss it as a group. As a group. Then the groups must report their findings to the rest of the class via a leader whom they selected for the task. Just before we go further, I must remind you that with group work, you as the teacher, although you play a facilitating role, you must take control of the behavior of the groups, because you must look out for those learners that are loafing, that do not want to contribute. But in this specific method, everyone has got to contribute, and because they prepare a specific aspect of the work, and then they present it to the group, and then the group discusses it. Then, as they present after they've presented their findings to the class, they will be observed and assessed by the teacher while reporting their findings. So they will be observed and assessed. In other words, they will be given a mark by the teacher. Then we look at cooperative learning techniques. Now, under cooperative learning techniques, there are 5 sub-methods that falls under that. Now, what does this comprise of cooperative learning techniques? Learners are grouped to study the learning material provided, and all members are involved in completing the task on a particular topic. You will see that it looks like the methods are the same, but there are subtle differences and you must look out for them. All right? So in cooperative learning, as the name implies, cooperative, team members must work together. Learners learn from each other under the close guidance of the teacher. The advantage of the cooperative learning technique is that learners can support each other. Sometimes learners do not want to open up to the broader class, but if the groups are smaller, they have the courage to contribute in such environments. A big disadvantage of the cooperative learning technique is that the above average learners' progress is sometimes hampered by other learners' dependency on them. It is inevitable, although we're not encouraging it, but it is inevitable that some learners will contribute more than others because of their intellectual capability. And sometimes they are held back by the slower learners. The teacher plays a small part in the lesson and this can sometimes lead to disciplinary problems. So you as a teacher, you must walk around amongst the groups as they work and see that learners are behaving themselves and they contributing to their group in a good manner. Now, the first cooperative learning technique that we look at are called teams, games, tournaments. You can see that the intention of this is fun. You want learners to have fun. They compete against each other, not competing in an individual sense, but in a group sense. All right. In the teams, games, tournament technique, groups participate in an academic game or tournament. Now we all know what the tournament is. Right? You have 12 teams in a tournament. You have two sections, section A and section B, and then they play off against each other until they go to the quarterfinals and then to the semifinals and then to the finals. It's something of that nature, but not precisely the same. Use the following steps to implement team games tournaments in your economics class. You present the lesson content to the whole class, and I'll only use the topic of unemployment in a grade 10 classroom as an example, so that hopefully you can see the distinction between the different methods. So you present the lesson content to the whole class, you as the teacher. Then learners are divided into previously assigned 4 to 5 member learning teams. So you have a learning team for the unemployment rates, one for the characteristics, one for the types of unemployment, and one for the causes and effects of unemployment. All right. The teams work together on teacher-selected study questions. All right. So the teacher had questions before the time on each section of the work, and then they coach each other to master the content within the group. The lesson then ends with a tournament. Now, how does the tournament work? So if you are in learning group 1 and there's 4 groups, you leave your learning groups and you compete at tournament tables with 2 others of the same achievement level from the other groups. Example, 3 students who are customarily the top 3 scorers in the circular flow compete at one table. Those who usually rank 4, 5, and 6 compete at another table. So it's a strength versus strength, right? And then the team scores are assembled at the end of the game to assess who has won, who came second, third, and so forth. So that is teams games tournament. And close to teams games tournament is what we call student teams achievement divisions. Student teams achievement divisions, or if we abbreviate it, we just talk about the STED learning technique, cooperative learning technique. Here, economics learners work as members of a team, competing against other teams on a section of learning to accomplish specific goals. The faster the team works to accomplish the task, the better the results. Each member must learn a specific section of the topic and compete with other teams. As I said, it looks close to the teams games tournament, but it is not exactly the same. The teacher assigns learners to groups of 4 to 5 learners according to academic ability, high, middle, and low achievers in one group. Secondly, the teacher presents to the class the content to be covered. Then, the teacher then distributes worksheets on the material taught to the different groups. For example, on the types of employment. Right, worksheets are handed out to that group that's working on that. Then each group should go through this content and make sure that all the members understand the work. Right? After a period of time, individual quizzes are given to learners. Individual quizzes are given to learners, and they may not help each other. Right? Because they were supposed to have learned during the group stage. The teachers then collects and marks the quizzes and allocate marks to each individual. So individual scores are determined by the teacher. Then the scores of learners are summed up in a specific group and compared to other members of their divisions with equal abilities from other teams. So that is the student teams achievement divisions. The next cooperative learning method is the jigsaw strategy. Now we all know, or I think we all know what a jigsaw is. A jigsaw is a puzzle pieces that must fit together at the end. This is a cooperative learning strategy whereby learners study learning materials to achieve specific objectives in a subject. Example, unemployment in grade 10. Now, how does this technique works? How does it differ from the teams, games, tournaments, and the stud techniques? In step 1, divide the classroom into teams. For example, 6 teams of 4 members each. This is called the base groups, right? So you have 6 teams and you have 4 members. Why do you have 4 members? Because you have a member that is looking at unemployment rates. You have a member that is only looking at the causes of employment, a member that is only looking at the types of employment, and a member that is only looking at the characteristics of unemployment. And we will see that those members that is looking at a specific aspect of unemployment, they are called the experts. So within each group, you have 4 members looking at 4 different topics. The team itself is called the base group. The members that is looking at each individual aspect of unemployment are called the experts. And we will see that they move into a group of their own. Step 2, after dividing the classroom into teams, the material to be the object of the study should be divided into as many parts as there are members of the group. The materials on unemployment should be divided as per the subtopics or the knowledge areas to be discussed, such as I have already explained, unemployment rates, the characteristics of unemployment, the types of unemployment. This is called the jigsaw pieces. Then step 3, each expert member of the teams, for example, those learners looking at unemployment rates, meet with the other expert members of teams who have the same knowledge. Example, all the members of the unemployment, not numbers, but unemployment, sorry, unemployment rates, gather in one group and discuss this part of the puzzle. Then in step 4, once step 3 is done, in other words, where the expert members have gathered to discuss their section of the work, the expert learners, sorry, work out how they will explain what happened to their team members. Unemployment numbers can be explained in real numbers or percentage terms. Then in step 5, all the experts return to their base teams. In other words, the expert for unemployment rates, the expert for characteristics, the expert for the types of unemployment, they return to their base teams that we formed in step number 1. Each expert is responsible for explaining the part he or she has prepared to the rest of the team. Right? And this is happening in all the groups. So in group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, we will have a sort of a report back by each expert member from what they have discussed in the expert group. At the same time, under step 5, the second sentence, at the same time, he or she has to learn what the other members of the team can teach him or her. All 4 topics or pieces will be discussed in this instance in the base group. Then in step 6, the assessment may be done in teams. In other words, the teacher can give a team mark, or in the most extreme cases, it can be done individually. But the mark that is obtained, sorry, is a team mark. All right. So that is the jigsaw strategy, and hereby the jigsaw strategy, you must remember that here we work with base groups, is the original team that was formed, and then you have the expert groups. The expert groups was determined by the subtopics within the overall topic to be discussed. And then all those expert members at the end, they come back to the group and they give a report back. In other words, they teach the other members of the group about their subtopic. And it is hoped that the group will learn from it, and they will be able, each group member should thereafter be able to explain that subtopic themselves to anybody else. right? Then there's other methods that I did not go into detail because you are supposed to go to your link, and those are the think, pair, share. Think, pair, share. This is where learners work in pairs. Now, what is a pair? Two people to study subject content and share what they have learned. Right? Then the last cooperative learning method is the group investigation method. Here, learners are formed into groups of 5 or more. The teacher gives an interesting topic from the economic gaps as a task for the group. As the name of the method implies, investigation. So the teacher gives you a topic to go and investigate. For example, tourism in South Africa or whatever the case might be. But you are in a group. Groups follow the criteria given for the completion of the task. And as I said, you can read further about this method in your link. Then we also have the problem solving method. This is now not cooperative. We're done with the cooperative learning techniques now. And we've looked at 5 of them, namely the teams, games, tournaments, the STED, student teams, achievement divisions, jigsaw strategy, think, pair, share, and group investigation method. They might look the same, but they are certainly not the same. And it is your task to find out the differences, how you are going to work it out for yourself, what the differences are. Then we come to other methods within the teacher-centered approach, of which the first one is the problem-solving method. Now, the economics gaps is based on problem-solving. Teachers must therefore provide learners with problems to solve, like the issue of unemployment, a very topical issue. All right? It's a problem. And are there solutions? The current solutions, are they working or not? And you can see that this is not rote learning. It is thinking and discussing. And you as a learner must go and read up on the issue of unemployment and what do you think can be a solution to it. Don't think that the experts out there, why can't they solve unemployment, have got the solutions for unemployment. You can also come up with a solution. When I say you, I mean you as a teacher and as a learner. We can also have the role play and simulation method. This method uses techniques such as dramatization, simulation games, and social drama. In other words, you act out a scenario in class. Act out a scenario in class. For example, one of the learners is the governor of the Reserve Bank, and he or she must report to the nation every second month on whether interest rates are going to increase or decrease. In other words, the learner places themselves in the role of the governor of the Reserve Bank, and then they act out as to how they will report back to the nation. Or the first Wednesday in every month, is the fuel price going to increase or decrease? You can also act out that role as to how you will report back to the nation. A very popular method these days is the case study as a teaching method. Case studies presents a particular problem or scenario from the economic scapes so that the learners can interact with it. Now, case studies normally forms part of question papers where you have to read on a specific scenario and then come up with with possible answers to this scenario. Then other method is research as a teaching method. Very important, research for yourself and introduce your learners also to it. Make them aware of this method. Research is an activity that's taking place out of the classroom and normally investigates the real world as a project. People are normally, especially when they get to university, students are not doing well in research because this method is not used enough in schools. If you have time, please use this method. Normally, the formative assessment task, one of those tasks is research, and make sure that learners do the research properly and report back properly with references, etc. And also, we need to look at the flipped classroom method. Now, flipping the classroom means you turn the roles of the teacher and the students around. Now, this method turns around the teacher-centered approach whereby the teacher teaches a lesson in class. In this method, the teachers prepares videos and other materials for the learners beforehand, and the learners go and study the material on their own, and they only come back to class for clarity purposes if they did not understand a certain section of the work. So with regard to the flipped classroom method, learners in the flipped classroom are compelled to take a bigger responsibility in their learning. There is more class time for the learner to be involved and to enhance collaboration and cooperation. There's more class time. In other words, the class time is not being taken up by a lesson being taught by the teacher. The class time is being used for the purposes of clearing up issues that is not clear to the learners. And the flipped classroom permits teachers to understand the learner's grasp of content due to increased learner collaboration. It increases time for one-to-one discussions. If the teacher is absent from class, the ability to reflect on recorded material makes it easy to move forward by catching up on lost time. It makes provision for the use of technologies such as pre-video recordings, podcasting, and online instructions. So the flipped classroom method it's a relatively new method, but it is also becoming popular because there is more time for discussion, because the learners had to go look at the video recording and the podcast beforehand, before coming to class. And then in class, they just concentrate on those aspects that is not clearly understandable. Of course, this method can be hampered if not everybody is technologically astute. So that students is then covers the last aspect of learning unit 2, namely learner-centered methods. And here, as I said at the beginning, the learner plays the most important role here. The teacher just plays the role of a facilitator. The learners are the active ones. So students, I want you to go through this TurbiTube video and prepare yourself well for assignment 1 and assignment 2. Remember, assignment 1, you should currently be busy with that. That is the multiple choice questions on learning unit 1 and on learning unit 2. I've made 2 videos on learning unit 1, the YouTube videos, and this is the third video on learning unit 2, and I hope it will assist you. But please do not forget to interrogate your learning units online. Spend more time online because there is links in addition to the study material. We are so used to the study guide that covers everything. Here now, with the online modules, you have to also look at your links. Open up your links so that you can broaden your knowledge. At the end of the day, it's not only about assessments, but about pedagogical knowledge, how to attain it and transfer it to the learners. I wish you well, students. Thank you.